Yield 5 minutes, Representative Escobar.
Well, good afternoon to our panelists. I want to thank you all for your service to our nation and for your testimony here today. I have to tell you, I'm just a little stunned by how this hearing has gone. I'm beginning my third term in Congress, and for the last 2 terms, I have served on the House Armed Services Committee, and I have specifically selected this subcommittee because I care about our service members. I want to make sure that we are doing everything possible to give our service members the kind of quality of life that they need, the kind of training and support, and that we care for their families as well. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that the important work of this subcommittee would devolve in this way, what we've seen here today. And frankly, it's really embarrassing, and it is a little depressing. And just for some background, I heard and I did not want to believe that this subcommittee would essentially be allowed to be deeply politicized for the purposes of performative politics, but that the military personnel subcommittee work that needs to be done would then be relegated to a panel. So this would be the woke subcommittee, and the real work would happen through a panel to address quality of life issues. What a waste of resources, time, and energy when we have so much important work to do. And the important work that we have to do really is on behalf of these service members. I know all of you have heard about the second death of a service member, a Latina at Fort Hood, Private Basaldua Ruiz. And her family has come forward to express concerns around sexual harassment that she had dealt with in a way that is not dissimilar to what Vanessa Guillen, another Latina service member at Fort Hood, who died while in service, had to endure. And so when my colleagues decry the need to understand what should come with diversity and equity inclusion, it completely dismisses the journey that these families and service members have had to go through. And we should want all of these service members to have a place so that they can serve side by side and defend our country, so that they can seek a career in the military, so that they can have opportunities just as many of the members of this subcommittee have talked about enjoying. But what is disconcerting is the unwillingness to walk in someone else's shoes or understand what another service member might have gone through. And I would encourage my colleagues to talk to women service members, to talk to service members who are people of color, who come from different backgrounds, so that they can put themselves in the shoes of another American service member so that we can do the job we were sent here to do, instead of the performances that unfortunately have taken up too much of our time here today. Mr. Wagner, I have a question for you. In line with the tragedy of Vanessa Guillen, the tragedy of Private Basaldua Ruiz, this is the Army Pulse survey that was recently released. It was titled Spotlight on Barriers to Service, and in ranking overall barriers to entry, it identified the concern that women and racial or ethnic minorities are discriminated against in the Army. That was the second most common perception that was held by the study group of potential recruits, and it was a diverse group of potential recruits. And if we are saying we want recruitment numbers to go up, we have to acknowledge that we want a broad pool, as Mr. Cisneros mentioned. So could you tell us, how does this perception harm the ability to recruit service members, especially in the very communities of color that we need to increase our outreach with?
Congresswoman, I'll defer on the specifics of the Army study to my colleague, Secretary Schaefer, but what I will say is that the Department of the Air Force is laser focused on making sure that service members, where there are disparities in military justice, in education benefits and command selection, in promotions, up and down the chain, we are looking for where there are disparities. We had our Inspector General in 2020 conduct a comprehensive investigation. We followed it up in 2021 with an additional investigation. Each of those IG investigations produced a series of recommendations identifying the disparities, and we're currently undergoing a data-driven process in order to figure out where those disparities exist and put against those disparities key elements to mitigate them.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.